Hi, welcome everybody to Everyone's a Winner, embracing authentic co-production with your patients and your families. My name's Helen Smith and I am the National Clinical Advisor for the Mental Health Safety Improvement Programme for NHSE and I'm also a consultant forensic psychiatrist in Devon.
Hi everybody, I'm Wendy Manhinnard. I'm an expert by experience. Supported my daughter with mental health difficulties.
And I'm Leanne Walker, so I'm also an expert by experience. I've got extensive lived experience of accessing a range of mental health services. So today I'm going to talk a bit about my own experience of co-production as a young person in mental health services and what I got from it personally. So the first thing that I always say when I talk about this stuff is that co-production is a journey rather than a destination. So it's not somewhere you're trying to get to, it's somewhere that you're always moving along, always moving towards. So it's not an end destination. I think that there's many different ways young people can be involved in co-production. So, for example, in their own care, getting involved in their outcome measures and setting goals in the service more broadly. And I think also it's important to give young people the permission for no repercussions. So often, this little image that you can see in the bottom corner, I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers who do exactly as I say. So often young people are told in a school environment that they listen, they don't answer back, and they can't always openly share their experiences in terms of what they think would improve the situation. So I think that giving young people the space and permission for repercussions is important. And for co-production, I always say it's less like plan, try, learn, success, and more like plan, try, feedback, learn, try, replan, try, learn, success. So as I said, it's a journey rather than a destination. So my experience as a young person, so I accessed CAMS from the ages of 15 to 19 and getting involved in co-production stuff. At the time we called it participation, but it was getting involved in the development of the service using my own experience. And that space was equally as important to me as the therapy that I was receiving. So it literally was a physical group that we would meet, made up of people working in services and people currently using the service or recently left. And we met monthly, and it felt like a safe space to be able to put things into practice that I'd been learning in therapy. So this piece, what you see on the screen now is part of a 10-minute spoken word piece. But I think this section captures actually the value of doing co-production for me personally. So I'm just going to read it out. The service gave me many opportunities within the mental health community. I joined the participation group where young people's voices get heard, and this is where things I had learned in sessions transferred. Together as service users and staff members, we worked on making the service better. A partnership which also helped to support me through my hardship. This is a group where we were listened to and treated as equals. And participation has become the next part of my story, the sequel. To emphasize, let me reword. Feeling valued in this way showed me the positives to the negatives. It cleared that grey sky that acted like a sedative. And now I work in partnership on different levels to share my experiences. And in all seriousness, without these things, I would have carried on oblivious to what feeling valued feels like. So for me, getting involved in co-production was the first time that I felt like I was really listened to and my voice mattered. What I had to say mattered, and the value that put on me, my self-confidence and my self-worth was huge. So there's many things that I got out of doing, working with the service and doing co-production, which often can go unmeasured or unnoticed. So as I said, we was a physical group, and there was 5 of us with lived experience who were actively really involved, and we ended up becoming really good friends. So it wasn't named as peer support, but that's what we got, informal peer support from each other. And they were people who also had lived experience, so they had been through the service themselves, and then consequently they had the understanding of mental health difficulties that other people, say around me at school, didn't necessarily have. So I left the service many years ago now, and the five of us are still friends to this day. We message frequently on Messenger, and like I said, that's a massive lifelong impact that I got from doing this stuff and this work. And it's the cheesy line of it changed my life. It really changed my life. And I guess I used to be labelled often as a complex young person with multiple difficulties. I'd gone through different treatments, and our mental health was a bad label in my life. And doing this work and working with the service and getting involved with wider work swapped that and changed it to a positive. So the mental health became a real passion and a real positive identity for me compared to what it had been historically. So, as I said, I feel for me personally, it was equally as important as the therapy I was receiving, because it was that safe space where I could test things. So I had treatment for social anxiety, and I struggled, believe it or not, to speak in front of audiences, etc. But I was able to, in this safe group setting, working with people within staff of the service, I was able to test what I'd been learning, do some exposure work in this safe kind of setting. And so it almost made it easier when I came to leave the service, because I was still allowed to be involved in this space. It felt like a safety net for me. I developed a range of skills. Like I say, my confidence was a big one, and feeling for the first time that what I had to say as a person, as an individual, really mattered. The social skills I developed, not just relating to my peers, but we did different training on, say, how to interview, how to do presentations, and I was then able to write a better CV based on this voluntary work I had been getting involved in, and then ended up getting paid roles. And the lifelong impact, as I say, from all this stuff is, for me personally, has been huge, and I can't stress enough the impact it has had on me. But I don't think it's just that. I think the impact is getting young people and parents, carers involved in co-production stuff. It impacts other service users. The staff see things from a different perspective that they wouldn't necessarily see. So it impacts the service more broadly, and then also that has knock-on impacts within the community. So I think, for me, the power of doing this stuff is massive, and I think it's about giving it a go and learning from mistakes. And I'm going to hand over to Wendy now.
Thanks, Leanne. Amazing to hear your story. And in a little while, me and Leanne are going to share a bit about the things we've done together. But first, I'm just going to share a little bit about my story. The picture there that you see on the screen was me 6 years ago. That's really how I felt. I was feeling very down and desperate as a parent. My daughter was in an inpatient unit. We've been struggling for a long time, and I just was desperate for more support, and there was none around me that would be able to help me as a parent with my daughter. And I had this vision at the time that I wanted to set up a parent support group. There was none around where I lived. But right from the very beginning, and looking back, this was 6 years ago, and I don't actually know why at the time I thought this, but I wanted to do it in partnership with our mental health trust. I felt like having a mental health professional in the group would help keep it safe. And I approached a number of people. It took quite a few doors to knock on, but finally I knocked on the right door, and our mental health trust said, yeah, okay, let's give this a go. And that poster there that you can see on the screen was our very first poster. We set off. We had a room in a CAMS building. There was me and a CAMS nurse. We had the kettle on and covers, and we started our group. And for the first 3 months, nobody came. Not one person walked through the door. So I sat feeling quite still in that position of, is it just me? Am I the only person that is going through this? And am I the only one that needs extra support? And it was a tough place. It really was a tough place to be. But I kept going. Something told us just to keep going. And I will never forget the first person that walked through the door. Never forget them. I can still see the face. They were desperate. That night they didn't drive home like they were meant to after work. They drove to our group and just said, I'm desperate. This is what's happened. And we sat, we talked, we gave each other support. A little bit like Leanne said, I didn't really know it was peer support as such then, but it was another parent going through something similar. And that gave me hope to keep going. And before we knew it, people started coming through the door, lots more people, and talking about a whole range of different things that were going on in their life. Might have been somebody with a 4-year-old who was starting to struggle with anxiety. It might have been somebody with a 17-year-old whose child was really, really unwell. But people were coming and they were talking about all the things that were going on in their life. And I think one of the biggest things was, for the first time, families got to share how they felt. Often, the mental health professionals were asking how the child was. Nobody had said to the parents or carers, how are you? How are you feeling? And some of these words are the true feelings of parents. I still hear them today, feeling isolated, lonely, sad, ashamed, embarrassed, excluded. It's tough. It really is. But people had this safe place to come to be able to say those things. And it really did make a difference. Families also started to tell us what they were finding hard, what kind of things that was going on in their situation were difficult, and things when treatments or support were not explained, when people had to keep repeating the story over and over again, and they were getting mixed advice from different professionals, and all those things on top of how they were feeling were really, really hard. But they also started telling us about what they wanted, what kind of things they were looking for, what would help, and things like people wanted practical strategies and tips and handouts, and they wanted training and information. When it comes to mental health support, often people are kind of left to get on with it or search for their own support, but they wanted some training to know, how do I deal with it if my child is self-harming? How do I deal with it? Anxiety in our house, those kind of things. And we started getting these common themes around what families wanted. And at the time, I think it was probably one of the first partnership groups that I joined. We had a local transformation mental health partnership group, and I sat there as a parent, initially not daring to say a word, sitting there kind of listening, thinking, what are they on about? But I started feeding in all of these voices of what parents were saying, the good things, the things that they wanted to change. And we started working together to think, what could we do? How could we, change this? And what all the professionals realised around the table was there was a big gap. There wasn't any support for parents and carers whose children had mental health difficulties. And what that led to was, after 2 years of me running that group voluntary, was a commission service. So we got some commissioning. And now I'm so proud to say, 6 years down the line, we are a totally co-produced, parent-led, professionally supported service. We offer support groups, advisory work, digital support and training. And what is amazing, if I take you back to the first slide, and I was on my knees as a parent, my daughter is well, she's out the other end, and we now employ 2 other parent peer support workers. And it's just such an exciting, amazing thing that can come out of working with people with a lived experience. And me and Leanne are just going to share a few more things that we've worked on, because both of us going from, doing not much and feeling quite hopeless and helpless, have worked with, just, you see from the logos on the slide there, a range of different organisations to help them with their work, but also help us as well. Leanne, you want to?
So we've worked with all these organisations in partnership as equals, and we've done some really good work together.
And And now we're just going to share something that we've done in a little bit more detail. There's 2 bits of work. One of them, this is called the Getting Through the First Few Days project, and it's a project where young people, parents, carers and professionals have all come together to develop what is going to be, it's in the final draft stages, but a resource that will go into every inpatient unit in the country that will help families get through the first few days. And this has been truly co-produced from the very beginning, Leanne, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I think why this has worked so well is we've been given and allowed time to build those relationships. So as people with lived experience and as professionals, we've been given time and space to just get to know each other. So what we've actually created now is a really open and honest environment where we're able to say, oh, I don't agree with that, or actually that's a really good idea. Where at first, and I think Wendy would agree, we was quite cautious in that. But now the space that we have, because we were given that time, is really honest. And I think that's how we have got to this place of developing this truly co-produced piece of work.
Yeah, and I think what's so important about that is everybody has had an equal voice. So we might have thought something was a great idea, but in reality, hearing kind of some of the professional voice and why maybe that wasn't possible, we were all able to kind of equally talk about things and come to an agreed place that will, be an amazing resource that is out there for people, but that has had that input from everybody and really make a difference. So we now just want to share with you a piece of work that we got involved with at the National Collaborating Centre for Mental Health, where actually there was me and Leanne and some other experts by experience who were given free rein to design and deliver a workshop for young people and parents and carers to come along and share their experience of inpatient services. Now, what was, I guess, just so amazing about this is the fact that we were given the trust and the support to be able to design and deliver this workshop as experts by experience, to put in some creative things that we knew would work, some songs and things that would help people engage and maybe make them smile while talking about a really serious subject matter. Leanne, I don't know whether you want to add.
Yeah, so I think it was interesting because the professionals kind of were saying, we think this is what would work. And actually we were saying, well, we're not sure about that. This is, in our experience, as people with lived experience, this is what we think. And as you say, the important thing here was the trust, and we were trusted to actually do what us as people with lived experience thought would be best for this piece of work. So they supported us in facilitating that group.
Now we just want to sum up a few things around what being involved in activities, events, and whatever kind of thing you're thinking about involving young people, families that your client group with can really make a difference. And I'll pick out that word at first. Like when I think of where my life was 6 years ago and where we are now, this journey has helped me heal, helped my daughter heal, and has made such a difference in my life, which is just amazing and empowering. And now I'm helping other people. Co-production and involvement is a real journey.
Yeah, for me, it started off as wanting to give something back, and then it's just evolved into this passion. And as I say, it has been life-changing, and feeling like you're making a difference to other people and other services is huge.
And now we are going to hand over to Helen, who's going to share from her experience as a professional.
Thanks very much, Wendy. And as everybody will see, Wendy and Leanne are a pretty hard act to follow. So I want to talk a little bit about my own journey in co-production, which of course is a continuous journey. So as a forensic psychiatrist, I look after or have responsibility for individuals who generally come into hospital when something has gone very wrong. They have often severe mental health problems, but just as importantly, they have life stories that are filled with personal trauma and abuse, and come into services with a very deep mistrust of services and of all of us as professionals. So people come into hospital compelled to have their mental health treated. And I think part of my role is to change that position where people get to a point where they really want to manage and look after their own mental health being and risk. And I suppose I've learned a few things on that journey. And I suppose one of the things I learned particularly with patients is actually I can tell people to do a certain amount of things, but it only gets me a very small way on supporting people on that journey to manage their own mental health. And so I decided to take a different position and start to really focus on what mattered for people. And I'll just give you a very small story of what I mean. So I looked after an individual who'd come to hospital in very, very tragic circumstances with severe mental health problems. As this individual got better, they became more closed about what was happening for them with their mental health. And we were really struggling to engage him in our agenda. So we decided to stop a moment and really understand what was important to him. And what was important to him was his music decks, and his ability to get out there and use his music decks and share his music. So we created a number of different forums in which he could do that. We got him doing teaching sessions within our hospital. We got his decks in his room, using them on the unit. And we started to think about the journey out of hospital and how his music decks may play a part in his rehabilitation. And we didn't ignore, but we paid less attention to his mental health. It was amazing how quickly that built trust. That built trust for him with us. And by supporting him with his agenda and what was important to him, it allowed us, at his pace, to start focusing on our agenda too. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is when I moved to being medical director. So as the medical director, I was involved with thinking about how we engage people with lived experience in our services. And to be honest, we'd somewhat stalled. So I was in the lucky position that I had a little pot of money that I could repurpose. So I decided that it was time to stop pretending that I could do this myself and hand it over to the experts. So we were lucky that we had an organisation that worked alongside the trust, outside of the trust, run by people with lived experience that I could ask for help from. So I tasked them with only the outcome that I thought we needed. So I asked them to set up a structure or set up something that would allow us to have access to people with lived experience for any of the work that we were doing in the trust. An amazing individual got appointed. He managed to create enthusiasm, engagement, and a structure that gave us access to several hundred people with lived experience, some who chose to be with us and come into our meetings, and some who just wanted to be able to correspond with us. It was called LEAP, the Lived Experience Advisory Panel. We started engaging them in a couple of projects in the trust, but right from the word go. Right from the point of even deciding what your meeting might look like and what your meeting room might look like in order for people to feel comfortable. Staff were sceptical to start with, but that didn't last. We reached a tipping point extremely quickly after we started this work, where everybody was asking, could we have somebody from LEAP or some people from LEAP to join us in the work that we're doing? So a fantastic opportunity was created by actually stop pretending that I can do it myself and ask the people who knew better than I did about how to do this. Wendy has already mentioned that we first met through the Mental Health Safety Improvement Programme with the National Collaborating Centre for Mental Health. And we ran our trust engagement, the trust engagement part of the safety programme together. So Wendy and I and other people with lived experience would visit trust executives to have conversations about safety issues that there might be within those organisations. So moving on, if I were to give advice to anybody that's really interested in working in a different way with the people that have lived experiences of your services, these are the points that I'd raise. First, embrace the opportunity. Great co-production creates better services for people to receive care in and for people to work in. Be prepared to share power. A little seeding of power can go a long way to aiding the co-production journey. 3, be prepared to listen. You may have to listen on occasion to a few difficult truths. There will always be golden nuggets of opportunity to improve things. Stay open to this discovery. Be prepared to prepare people properly. Properly induct your people. Make sure there's enough meeting preparation so that people go into those meetings feeling supported and comfortable in the roles that you're asking them to do. Consider the number of people with lived experience you have at the table. Remember, it can be a lonely and isolating place if there's only one individual. Be prepared to speak in plain English. Jargon excludes people from conversations. Be prepared to value the people, pay for their expertise, as we would any professional, and their expenses. And be prepared to have a structure of support around people to help them to feel safe. When people tell their stories, we must be mindful of the potential for re-traumatization. We should help people to tell their stories in a way that reduces the chance of this happening. And finally, before I hand back to Leanne and Wendy, be prepared to have some fun. Co-production is great fun and a much better way of working than without it. Over to you, Leanne.
So just got some ideas here. So I think, and Helen touched on this, different people like to be involved with different things. So some people might be happy to be consulted or come to one-off sessions or just connect via email. Other people might want to be more immersed in their involvement of co-production, come to regular meetings, etc. So I think it's recognising that different people prefer to get involved with different things. There's some people out there who like statistics. I mean, I don't, but some people do. So there's different experiences that people bring. And then secondly, getting people connected and comfortable. So for example, as a young person going into a participation meeting, co-production meeting for the first time, I hadn't been in a formal environment like that. I needed support to be able to allow me to engage within that environment initially. So it's just having in mind that this might be a new experience for somebody. So what do they need to feel comfortable and less nervous? Share good and bad experiences as well as ideas. So often I've been involved in stuff in the past where professionals just want a certain question answering, but actually it's important. We bring a whole experience, not just an answer to a question. So allowing people to share their good and bad experiences is important also. Be open, honest, and clear about how and when the information will be used and shared and what you're engaging on. So yeah, being mindful, this is people's lived experiences. If you've said it's not going to go out the room, then don't take it out the room. If you want to take it further, getting the person's permission, and also being honest about what's going to happen following the feedback. So when someone shared their lived experiences, has it made a difference? Has it not? Has whatever's been agreed to be the outcome, has that been achieved? And I think sometimes it's being honest and saying, actually, no, we struggled with doing this because, rather than saying nothing at all. So it's making sure you complete that feedback loop.
And just finally, like Helen mentioned, fun is really important. And if you're really struggling or you want to add a little bit of fun, food is always a good way to do that when it comes to co-production. In our support group, we always have chocolate and fruit, but it's no ordinary chocolate and fruit. So, for example, we have Toblerone, You're Not Alone. Somebody can walk into a room feeling so low and down, and that can put a smile on their face. Just handing them a chocolate and saying, Toblerone, You're Not Alone, we're here for you. Kit Kat, have a chat. Wagon Wheel, how do you feel? We have got now so many sayings for so many biscuits, believe me. And you can have a bit of fun with this. Get people to come up with it for different food groups and things like that. We introduced fruit because obviously we needed to think about healthy options as well. And people, can be sharing a story, and that often people feel guilty that they haven't done things how they wanted to do it. And just saying, orange zest, you're doing your best, can just kind of lessen that guilt a little bit and make you think, you know what, yeah, I'm doing my best. And that goes for people who in need and use services and people who provide them. we're all in this together. We're all people, and things like this can help people connect. And honestly, it's at the heart of co-production. It really is. So when it comes to co-production and your journey and what you're hoping to do, Blueberry Share Your Worry, share it with people, and you'll come up with a solution together. You really will. So feel free to use any of these, come up with new ones. And we are just going to finish off now.
So my last words around this, and something that I've found tremendously helpful, is to spend some time walking in other people's shoes, to really think what it must be like to be somebody with lived experience, either using our services or a family member. That has really helped me to get into the right thinking zone when thinking about how to work effectively with people.
And for me, I think, if nothing else, just always trying to remember, we're people. You know, connect with that person. What's already been mentioned a few times, what interests them. You will have some common ground that you can talk about and you can get to know. And from that point, you can absolutely build and just do it and give it a go. And, you know, you will absolutely reap the rewards all round for giving co-production a chance and an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that services wouldn't exist without the people using them. So working together actually is fundamental in getting the service right. And I think it's important to learn by doing. Just get stuck in.
So thank you very much, everybody, for listening to our presentation.